I'm currently studying at UNC Chapel Hill,
Yep.
and they have an Overwatch team. Um, and so tried out my freshman year, didn't make it. Tried out just this last semester, also didn't make it. So I'm like, I think I'm gonna actually apply myself now and see what I can do to like make the team and learn as much as I can about this game and just improve.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Let me get everything pulled up in mind. Now, at the time of the form, you said you were kind of hard stuck plat. Is that the case?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that kind of still where you're at around now?
Yeah. I mean, I was carried once to like Masters 5, but that was before season 9 rank reset. And
Yeah.
then right now I think I just dropped to like plat 3. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. And what's your hero pool like? It says on the form on a BAP Kiriko. Is that still the case?
Kind of. It's more Kiri, Bap, Juno now. And I can like play Ana and Brig, but not as well.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. What is the average rank of the team that you're applying for, and who would you be? Do you know the rank of the player that you would be trying to like, not replace, but what position are you competing for, and what rank is that?
Um, so I play with them pretty often. They host events for like anyone in the
Sure.
UNC Discord server to join. So, um, we do like internal pugs, and I have them all friended. And so we like grind ranked sometimes. But I would say, the better players are about like low to high-ish masters.
Okay.
The lower end would be mid to high diamond, maybe.
Okay. And where do you think you need to be competing for that level approximately?
I think like rank wise, I think about like mid to high diamond probably, but I mean, ranked is so different from like scrims and like five stacking. I think just like generally from what I've seen. Um, so I mean, I could see a case where like I get good at scrimming, but I'm bad at ranked. But if I'm good at scrimming, then I should also be good at ranked. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
I agree. I agree. I think there's some specific skills that apply to scrimmages, mostly communicational and leadership. But I do think that there's like a minimum threshold of like you need to at least be able to perform mechanically on the character that
Right?
you're
Yeah.
playing, and I think ranked does a good job of finding that out. Um, okay, so in terms of where you're at right now, we talked about kind of playing a lot of different support characters. Does that team have a support character split? Like, do they have a flex support, main support split, or is it just kind of like they play a little bit of everything?
I feel like they play a little bit of everything probably.
Okay, okay.
There's definitely not like a hard we need a main support, we need a flex support or anything.
Yeah, yeah. And do you, in terms of your hero pool, do you find yourself leaning towards one or the other side of that classical hero pool?
Um I'm assuming that we're treating the sorry, it's been a while since I've
It's okay.
talked about this, but Lucio, Brig, Mercy,
Mm-hmm.
Weaver, those are in like one category, right?
Sure, sure.
And then like Ana, Curie, Bap,
Yep.
those are like usually pretty meta and they're like kind of in another
Sure,
category.
sure, sure.
Um so I guess my one exception is that I can play Brig. I actually like playing Brig, but not like a lot
Yeah. Okay. So
at
so
all, pretty
so
much. Yeah.
so so more
On a
traditionally flex
yeah.
support in that regard.
Yeah.
In terms of hero pool. Okay, sounds good. 6 to 10 hours per week at the time of the form of training. Is that still approximately the case?
Yeah, maybe a little more now.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Is that because of your goals or the new season or your schedule or what?
Probably the new season. It's been like 2 weekends in a row where I like five stacked with them for like 7, 8 hours in a row. I don't
Sure.
know.
Is this you? Is
Yeah.
this you stacking with the team?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you kind of have like you talked about being friends with them through some of the pugs, but you're actually just you're playing with them a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So when you've tried out before, you said twice, right?
Hmm.
And you've not quite made it. What did you get feedback at any point in time during those sessions? And if so, what was that feedback like?
I did not get any feedback, unfortunately.
That's okay, no problem. That might be something that, like, if you get the opportunity to try again, or maybe even to just have a conversation with the players about like what their thoughts on, that might be worth digging into a little bit more. Because I'll be able to tell you what's wrong with your gameplay and what you need to do from a mechanical, from a hero understanding, positioning, all that kind of stuff standpoint. But they may have some specific feedback from in terms of what they remember about your communication, your understanding, and so on. Maybe useful. Okay.
Okay.
Bit of a tough question here for you, but why? Why is this such a goal of yours? Is it just you want to feel like I'm a part of the university that I'm at? Is it I want to get involved in the competitive, coordinated game space? Like what is it about that makes this such a priority for you?
Yeah, that's such a great question because I've thought about that a lot. And like along the way, you always have tough days where
Yeah.
you're like you just feel like giving up. And I asked myself like, would I regret like if I just like I graduate college and I enter the workforce and if I gave up right now and I didn't even try, would I regret it later? I said, yeah, I think I would.
Hmm.
Because I think there's a certain competitive aspect to it. I've always been competitive. My mom raised me to be like quite competitive. She was tough on me. Um, and I also feel like that would just be a really cool community to belong to.
Sure.
I like the idea. Like, excuse me, I'm not trying to like go tier one pro or anything. I
No, I
mean, unless
understand.
like my talent is like that amazing. But I think that it would be great to just have that as an experience because I'm just personally interested in it.
Yeah, I
I hope
agree
that
with it.
answers your
Yeah,
question.
no, it completely does. So it's like partly competitive, partly social, partly also just feels like the experience of trying for that, applying for that. And I think that's the key thing for you here is it's like victory for you is going to be application to the process. And whether you succeed in the end goal, do you see personal development through that? I think that's going to be the important thing. Like, I think like this needs to be something that you could feel like, okay, at the very least, I progressed in rank. You
Right.
know, like even if I didn't make the team, I was able to improve at my play with Ana or BAP or whatever you want to improve at. Like, because I do think it is important to be able to apply yourself to something and accomplish something. Like, regardless of whether you go into the workforce or not. Like as you said, it's the feeling of I set my mind to something and I accomplish something. Now, obviously, this is very important to you, and that's why you're here. But most people, when they set their mind to things, hit roadblocks. They apply, they set goals, they try to do things, and I assume you've done similar things and they fail. What have your roadblocks been? How serious have you been about applying yourself to this? And what was your progress like?
It's it's been a couple months. I
Sure.
would say if I were to judge it right now, it would be probably like
Okay.
mental stuff.
Okay.
I have struggled with anxiety and that's something that I'm working on now with the therapist. My sleep
Sure.
schedule's all like fucked up right now, so I'm
Yeah.
also trying to
Yeah.
work on that.
Good. Good.
Um
Good.
so I'm trying to take care of myself outside of that. And I know that's been a limiting factor, but outside of that, I I see myself being able to hit top 500 because I have an able body and I'm attending a good university. Like I was smart enough to get here, so I know I'm like I know I have the basics of like absolutely what I need.
Yeah.
So now I just got to get there.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. And you talked about some of the anxiety being kind of like a mental difficulty for you. How does that affect your Overwatch play?
Um really just like negative thoughts. It hasn't terribly been a problem as I've worked on it in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten a little bit better. Um just like a sort of critical voice sometimes that just like makes me second guess myself or like have self-doubt in the game.
Sure.
But that's been less of a problem.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Uh, so I think it's very important to kind of like, and this is why I think it's important to apply yourself to things because you're able to kind of learn more about yourself along the process and then ultimately make yourself a better person, a better competitor, regardless of whether you succeed at the initial goal or not, right? And it sounds like that's the case. Like even stuff like your sleep schedule, like that is something that's important for everything, but maybe the Overwatch goal is kind of the impetus to kind of force you to consider that more, right? Now, in terms of how you approach play right now, you said you play a little bit more than 6 to 10 hours a week. How does that look in terms of solo queue, queuing with the friends, queuing with the UNCA guys or UNC guys, playing ranked, playing quick play? Like how is that approached?
Yeah, I was gonna ask questions about this because I was interested in how to kind of optimize my
Yep.
like practice. But so currently what I'm doing is um trying to at least get 1 hour of ranked play a day.
Hmm.
Usually not quick play, unless like my friends are like, "Hey, do you want to hop on quick play?" And that happens like I don't know, maybe an hour a month total.
Sure.
So not a lot. I don't warm up with quick play. I warm up with Vaxta. Um, and let me see. I solo queue sometimes. And then when I stack, I'll stack with like 2 to 5 people. I feel like when I'm with the UNC guys, I'm more locked in than usual.
You got something to
But
prove, I guess.
yeah, I would say it's like about, uh, I'd say it's about a 50-50 split.
In terms of solo
Um,
queue and stacking?
yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Now, when you're more locked in with the stack, what kind of stuff are you more locked in? Or is it just general effort?
Oh, I'd say like with the UNC guys specifically, I'm more consistently locked in, but when I like lock in during solo queue, I can also like lock into the same thing.
Okay, makes
Sorry,
sense.
what
Makes
was the
sense.
question?
No, I guess when you are more locked in with your group, are you just playing
Yeah.
better overall or trying harder overall? Or is there specific facets that you're working on?
I think it's like easier to focus on what I'm trying to work on.
Okay, okay, makes sense. What are some things that you've been trying to work on? Anything particular with specific heroes or just general principles?
Um, so right now, um, a couple of nights ago, I actually watched one of your masters Kiriko things and uh being like intentional when you spam and not
Yeah.
just like calculating every single kunai. And then like playing your optimal distance and crosshair placement. And then for Juno, using ring mindfully to like help your team.
Mm-hmm.
Um and just like yeah,
Oh,
general stuff like
okay.
that.
Okay. General individual stuff. Okay. Sounds good. So you said you had some questions about schedule. I don't know if you have those written down or off the top of your head.
Yeah.
We should take some time for that.
Okay. Um, my question is, how often uh should we coach? Because um I used to have like piano lessons once a week and then clarinet lessons once a week. And I know that you on your website it says like once every 5 to 6 weeks or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I know of course that, you know, a video game is different than playing an instrument. But what's the rationale behind that and what do you recommend?
So the reason that that's the case is just basically the way the gaming headspace is that a lot of it is okay. So let's start with this. The nature of Overwatch is such that the competition itself is the practice. It is the drill. And so it is very difficult to have instruction that is able to consistently move you through specific aspects that you need to drill out. So, like, if you want to drill specific things, like let's go back to your Juno speedring example, right? You kind of there isn't really a way to drill that outside of queuing ranked. You get what I'm saying? Like you just have to queue
Yeah,
ranked.
yeah,
So
I
so
see.
I'm not able to sit in your ear most of the time and help you with that. And if I did, it would just be a vastly inefficient use of my time and yours. That's something that you need to keep in mind and then go into ranked and practice on your own. All right, let's go back to your Kiriko thing. Be more mindful with your spam. If you've seen a lot of my live coaching, sometimes it's very valuable, especially in regards to positioning, but some of it is not so much. Like sometimes in the aspect of that, it's just me cueing you. Remember your spam. Remember your spam. I can't tell you how to move your crosshair. You already understand. You already know. It's very basic, but doing it in the moment takes a lot of effort. So when it comes to teaching an instrument or teaching how to punch or teaching how to throw a ball, there's a lot of engaged micro of me being able to even manipulate your elbow or move this or try this or I want you to do this or no, I want you to adjust this or I want you to practice this or okay, I'm gonna help you with this or I'm gonna even help you with the drilling process, right? Like I'm the one drilling with you. But that's just not how video games work. They don't work that way. You at least not with Overwatch. You have to go in and you have to play versus real people with me at best being in your ear prompting you rather than instructing you, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
because
Yeah.
that's the case with Overwatch, the vast majority of progression is self-discipline, not coaching. And so when I talk about 5 to 6 weeks between sessions, part of that is also just based off the nature of, coaching prices and me being booked out and my availability. But a part of it's also recognizing that my job is kind of like a therapist, right? My job is more like to kind of bounce ideas off of, to kind of help you to work through some of this and maybe offer some instruction and some advice. And maybe for coaching specifically, maybe provide you some basic structure of how to approach things. But ultimately, that's on you. That's on you. And just based off of the nature of how video games work within Overwatch.
Okay.
And so the vast majority of students that I've worked with who have been successful were the ones that were able to take some of my feedback, some of my advice, some of my structure, and occasionally reevaluate with me, right? Come back, add more questions, come back, have more questions. But most of their progression was self-driven.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that if you aren't a higher rank now, the coach isn't going to change that. I got coaching when I was silver from another coach, and he gave me a lot of feedback and advice. But the most important thing that he basically encouraged me to do, and this was like 7 years ago, was start playing ranked, stop worrying about your rank, stop flexing, play your hero pool, and just play cover. So I got very little like actual gameplay feedback in the same way that a violin instructor might talk about finger positioning and give you scales to drill. I didn't get any of that. I got told to play cover and shut up and start playing ranked and stop flexing to 7 different characters. And you know what? It worked. Because all the micro stuff, once I started grinding Reinhardt or Winston, I think at the time, and stopped worrying about my rank and stopped focusing on myself and started prioritizing cover because that's just always useful, right? Then I was able to start kind of learn on my own. I kind of self-taught myself, and I think everyone will be exactly like that. So my job is to give you some of that basic structure when I can in terms of the in-game stuff. Like we will talk about in-game stuff, of course. But honestly, you just need to get better at how you're practicing and how you're approaching the game, period. And that's something I can help you with, but that's going to be a lot of self-progression and not as much me holding your hand through the steps. The students where I coached every week, we would review and we go over the same exact mistakes over and over and over again, and it just was not productive practice. Like eventually we started, doing mostly live coaching, but even that, it was just kind of the basic same prompts. It just was not useful coaching at all.
Okay.
So you're going to have to, you are your own limiting factor when it comes to improving in Overwatch, and that is both a good thing and a bad thing, right? That's why you have so many pro players that just never really got a lot of coaching to higher rank. They just really like the game and they just played it a lot. That's basically it. So, Good question. Let's keep going. Do you have any other questions about that? Does that all make sense?
Yeah, that all makes sense. So talking about limiting hero pool, right? To what extent for my goals should I do that?
Explain a little bit.
Like basically how much should I limit my hero pool
I
for my
think
goals?
the general guideline for me, let me actually copy and paste something for you. The general guideline for me is however many hours a day you're playing, that's probably how many heroes that you should be playing. So you're around 2. I would say probably no more than 2, at most 3 characters should you be maining. And I know that's a big compression from where you're at right now. But the reality is that ultimately the micro of this game is way too intensive for you to be able to pick up more characters than that. Now, I have a guess as to why you're playing more than that. And I might be wrong here, but is it because that's what the team supports generally are playing? Like they're playing a lot of different supports?
Not really. I don't.
Okay.
I'm not sure actually. I didn't pay attention to that. I just find that like sometimes I'll flex onto Brig just because my other support is playing Ana, and
Sure.
like Ana Brig is good, and I was like, hey, this is cool. I'll play it.
Sure.
So it might be situations like that.
Sure. You're trying to build a composition. Yeah, that makes sense. Highly recommend against it. Like your ability to perform on any given character is the most important thing when it comes to winning a match. And your ability to play and understand the details and the positioning nuances of characters is incredibly important for you to improve at the character. And even just a hero pool of Anabap, Kiriko, sometimes Brigitte, right? Like that alone is, with the amount of time that you're playing, is probably too much. Now, here's the thing. you're not locked into a hero pool for the rest of your life. If you two-trick characters for a couple of months and you get bored or the meta changes and you want to pivot things up or your team has demands of you to play other characters, you could change it up. It's totally fine. Totally fine.
Okay.
But you're not going to progress at something if you don't spend time on it. Like, you must think of it this way. Like, you need to be drilling an hour a day on every character that you play. That should be the goal. Or at least 2 or 3 games per day. That's the goal. So if you're not getting that time in, your progression is going to be limited. Or at least it's going to be very slow. Does that make sense?
Okay.
It's as simple as that. It applies to me too. Like, I can coach Tracer very well. Probably the best character that I can coach, but I don't have hours on Tracer. So even though I understand all the aspects of Tracer, I like every single little nuance about Tracer, I know. But I can't play very well. Why? Because I just don't play her. For me to be able to get to masters on Tracer would probably take me 3 or 4 weeks of just dedicated grind to be able to execute what I already know. Because the fast-paced nature of Overwatch is you can't just know stuff. You have to be able to do it. That's the key.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what characters that is, doesn't matter. Your call. Whatever characters you enjoy playing the most. If you were to say that off the top of your head, what were your top 2 or maybe 3? What would they be?
Kiri and Juno?
Okay. Kiri and Juno? Seems good. In which circumstances would you pick Kiri and which circumstances would you pick Juno?
Kiri, I feel like just is a great all-around support. Like I feel like you can play Kiri into anything.
Sure.
I feel like with Juno, I heal bot a little bit more. So if you have someone who like demands heals, like I feel like I'd play Juno with a Ryan maybe or with a Diva.
Yeah, seems good to me. Seems like a basic guideline to start with. Okay, so if you were to say that you'd play Kiri Juno all the time, would you be happy? Would you enjoy the game? Would that be a fun time training that, or would that be annoying?
I think it would be an adjustment to limit myself to 2 like that, but I think that I can stick to that. Yeah.
Okay.
I just wonder, is it?
Go ahead.
Is it better to pick 2 like different play styles just for like your own edification?
Partially yes and no, but I think Kiriko and Juno have enough unique aspects that you're already picking different playstyles. Like, I wouldn't describe
I like
Juno.
the idea of playing Ana.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I also like the idea of playing Ana too.
Yeah.
So I might go like Kiri Ana. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, then that's something to experiment with. Like, you don't have to make that decision right now, but it's something that you need to consider, right?
Okay.
If you were, do you have Overwatch pulled up right now?
Like the game open? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you send me a screenshot of your career profile last season and the season before?
Okay, last season and the season before. Just like time played?
Yeah. Just from the competitive stuff would be fine. Okay. So BAP 8, Kiri 7, Ana 5, Brig 1. And see what I would do there is, like, let's say that you picked BAP Kiriko as a hero pool. I would compress all of those Ana hours into Kiriko or BAP, and then maybe have the Brig if you really, really wanted to, right? It's just like that extra occasional pick. And then season 14, honestly, the same thing. Like, you're doing 14, 10, 10, 4, and so on. It's not terrible, but I mean, imagine if at least the vast majority of the Juno Ana hours were dumped into Kiriko, right? Like, think about how much more practice time you get in on that. Overwatch characters right now are strong enough and dynamic enough, pretty much all the way up until Grandmaster, to where you can adjust your playstyle and you could utilize different aspects of your kit to win games, right? So I think it's really important that you're able to do that to that extent, and that's something that I would encourage you to think about on your own. You don't have to worry about it right now, but like moving forward, I want to see that compressed to at most 3 characters, and even better if it's 2. And then if that changes on a month-to-month basis, that's fine, but that needs to be something that you stick with for at least a few weeks before you pivot it again. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. I encourage you that you could pick up and learn a new character quickly if you dedicate the time to it. So you're not stuck playing those new characters. If you have to pick up Ana, you'll pick her up quickly if you are playing only Ana and one other support. Okay, Vaxa warm-up is fine. I would encourage you to play as much solo queue as you can, just so that you're comfortable to work on specific facets without feeling like you have to perform, I think. I think the pressure of playing with the group is good for your team play and general performance, but it also may not be as useful for you drilling specific facets. Because we talked about this with the violin, like how do you drill? Well, you just have to go in to a ranked game and be okay with making mistakes and drill those things over and over and over again. That may be difficult to do when you're in a group.
Yeah.
That just may be something that you have to consider. Okay. Let's see here. Sleep is something that you're working on. Your relationship, like your anxiety in terms of your performance, your negative self-talk, like that's something that you're working with as well. I think those are the key things. If you want the basics, play 1 to 2 hours per day, 1 to 2 heroes, play solo queue as much as you can, keep the warm-up short, sleep well, have small basic goals, and that's it. Getting the high rank is generally not very complicated. It's just doing the basic boring things over and over and over again. And also actually enjoying that basic boring process. Like this needs to be, it needs to be a fun to you and not a complete chore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions here before we get into some gameplay?
Yeah, I have a few more actually.
Go for it. Let's do it.
So let's say I limit, this is one of the question I came up with. Let's say I limit my hero pool to like 2 characters, 2 supports. Am I going to find myself in a pickle? Like hypothetically, let's say I get to like masters or something on Kiri Ana. Mm-hmm. Am I going to find myself in a pickle where if I want to pick up BAP and Brig or something and I shift my hero pool, am I all of a sudden going to like drop down a lot, or is most of that like game sense and skills, are they going to transfer over where it's going to be an easier transition?
Do you have an alt account?
Once I've kind of mastered. I can make one.
Okay, there's your answer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Learn a new character on alt account until it's competitive with the one that you're at, and then you're good. And I will encourage you that as you get better at the game mechanically and understand the game from a different perspective, you will learn new characters faster. But I still think it's worth using the alt account because you want to play. You don't want the discouragement of trashing your rank, right? It's a good question.
Yeah. And as you can see from my career profile, I like sometimes very occasionally play other roles. This season I've been playing a lot of tank. Just because I have a friend who's like decently high ranked, and I'm like, I wonder if I'm like kind of missing something and I'm like not understanding the game. So what role is gonna help me understand the game? And he's like tank. So I start playing tank. What is your opinion on like playing other roles like that? Because one of my huge weaknesses is mechanics. Like my DPS is quite low. And I feel like if I grinded DPS, that would just like help with my mechanics so much. But I mean, like right now I'm like maining support.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion is that you should just play support. My opinion is that you should spend more time in deathmatch if you really want to improve your mechanics. The reason why I like a deathmatch over Vaxa is that deathmatch kicks you in the teeth if you miss your shots.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of negative positive punishment, I should say, about if you fail this, you're going to get punished, essentially. Whereas Vaxa, it's like, well, you're not really playing for score. You're just kind of mindlessly shooting bots, which is good for a warm-up, but it's not really aim training. It's just kind of waking yourself up. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So go into deathmatch, pick Baptiste, and fight. That's it.
Like the arcade deathmatch?
The arcade deathmatch, you got it. Tryhard Free For All is a custom game that's occasionally available. It's often they're going to have EU lobbies, but as long as the latency is under like 130, 140, you'll be fine. Go play. Pick Brig, I don't care. Win the 1v1s. Whatever support player that or hero that you're working on, you need to go win 1v1s with them. That, and then you just need to put in the hours on rank. Now, I have a suspicion, and we'll confirm this or deny this, I guess, a little bit when we look at your code, that if your mechanics are continually a weak point with your support play, you're not positioning yourself properly, and you're not pressuring properly. Because support, when played properly, without exception, I guess Mercy being the one exception, is going to be a limit test in your mechanics in terms of the pressure that you put out. So playing DPS, playing tank it's not going to improve your understanding and or mechanics of the game in terms of support. I think a good general familiarity with how characters work is fine if you have the time. But I think for right now, play support, play deathmatch, and go in and we'll talk about like how you can position yourself to kind of force yourself to improve your mechanics.
Okay.
Make sense? Good
Yeah, that
question.
makes sense.
But I would not waste time in other roles unless you want to just for fun.
Okay. Because honestly, I enjoy playing tank a lot, and I was thinking about also picking that up as a role. But I mean, like, do I have the time? I'm also trying to get a degree, so
Right.
yeah.
That's always the question, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Good question.
And then I think you mentioned like not caring about your rank. And I guess I wonder if you have any advice about like stuff like pressure or like feeling pressure, getting tilted, and like I wish there were a setting where you could just like not see your rank at all. Like it's not displayed anywhere. Like you don't see like the match stuff. Because honestly, sometimes I get psyched out by it. So like what are some strategies that you use?
I turn off team chat. I don't join team voice. I write down what I'm going to be trying to accomplish that game, and then that's all you could do. And then you rep it out.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Usually I join team voice to like calm and stuff.
Sure. I mean, you're more than welcome to do that if you'd like to, but it's not the same as communicating in scrims, as I'm sure you know.
Right.
And more often than not, it just feels like I'm either distracting myself, wasting my time, which is like whatever, if that's what you want to do. But the toxicity could be discouraging, distracting, and then I don't play as well and I don't practice as well. You know? You got to remember, back to this, all goes back to that the violin example. This is your drill. This is your drill. Your job is to practice that specific facet with real life moving people, and they're doing the same thing to you. You got to go. You know, you got to go. You don't have time to worry about people being toxic or what. Like, you are there to practice. You are there to drill. You have a specific goal in mind, and you got to do the best that you can to actually drill that skill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
That's crucial. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. I know it's not easy to do that, but I used to have a lot of competitive anxiety, and the best two things I ever did was stop joining Team Voice and just start playing ranked solo queue more. There's exposure therapy is a real thing, you know? And it sounds like you're playing it decent enough, but kind of going out in that wasteland just over and over and over again. And kind of the reason why joining the voice chat helps is it just makes the whole process less dramatic. You know, I show up, I do my job, and I go home. You know, I play it, and I find myself playing better too, just because there's less distraction, you know?
Yeah.
Something to experiment with.
All right. Cool.
Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. I know it's not as simple as that, but that's at least a starting step for that process. There's no easy fix for that, sadly.
Cool.
Any other questions?
So, I think that's it for now.
Okay. Let's give this a shot here. Now we're going to test this replay code and see if it's a crasher. I'm not sure if you've heard about that.
Is it?
Yeah. Replay code, the viewer is bugged.
Oh.
So if you skip through, it will about 60% of the time crash your game.
Okay.
And that's a crasher. That's okay. Because we can just watch the same code, but we can't skip. So we have to sit very patiently and watch through every second. The hardest part is that you can't go back. Like if we miss a play or we wanted to go back and look at something again, we can't, which is kind of annoying. But it's fine. It's going to be fixed in the mid-season. But in the meantime, we'll do the best we can. Okay. Any other questions about gameplay stuff, Kiriko? So let's start with this. Why did you choose this code?
This is like the only good code that I got last night. I think there was like an update last night or something.
Yesterday,
or like maybe yesterday. Oh my god, yeah. And I had 2 midterms today, so I really didn't have like time to play games. But I did anyways. And I lost every single game that I played that day. So I was not in a great mood, and I was like quite stressed. But regardless, I think that was one of my like more decent codes.
Yeah.
I guess it's unfortunate that we
That's
had an
okay.
update.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
Yeah, makes sense.
Any gameplay questions or anything specific with Kiriko? How you play the character, how you position, what your job is, and so on.
I think once I take a look at the code, some questions will probably come up.
Okay. What is Kiriko good at? What are your strengths of this character?
Like my unique strengths or like the strength
Yeah.
of the character?
Well, the strengths of the character that are unique to the character, sure.
Well, you got Suzu, cleanse.
Okay. How do
Cleanse
you
is
leverage that? How do you
important.
utilize that?
Um, Against an Ana, I 90% of the time always try to wait for a nade, and then cleanse that.
Okay.
Against a Junker Queen, there's like that like Cold War. If they're playing Ana Junker Queen, it's even worse because like, what are you gonna nade? You gotta track the Queen ult.
Sure.
What else? With TP, it can be used. Like you have so much mobility to take off angles where you couldn't with BAP, and even less so with Ana. Except BAP now has that perk with his boots.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but I mean, then Kiriko has the double swift step thing, which I always
Yeah.
take. So,
Yep. Yep. That's really good.
other unique strengths.
I mean, you kind of nailed it right there, right? Like the ability to move
Yeah,
around and take angles and put pressure. Now,
yeah.
do you feel
Wall
that you do a
climb.
good job of
Yeah.
that? Or is that a strength, a weakness?
Sometimes. Like I have to really put my mind to it.
Okay.
So
Why
maybe
so?
it's
How so?
honestly a weakness. It's not usually something I'm paying attention to.
Okay. Okay. How so? Because if you think it's a big strength of your character, then why is it not something you pay as much attention to? I'm not sure if you have an answer to this, but I'm asking it anyway.
Um,
Tough question, I know.
sometimes I get punished for being where I'm not supposed to be, or sometimes I'm punished for being on an off angle. Sometimes it's because like I didn't TP out in time, but it was a good angle. Sometimes it's because it was just like a bad positioning error. Um, and like I sometimes I swear I go back and forth on this, like, okay, I have to play more aggressive, like I have to put out more damage, or like, man, I've just been dying a lot because I'm doing stupid things recently, so I'm gonna play more safe or something like that.
Okay, so you basically you'll take an angle or whatever, get punished for it, and then you feel like, okay, I need to play more safe. I need to be a little bit more cautious with that, and
Yeah,
maybe that's a tendency of you is to kind of go overboard in that regard, right?
yeah.
Okay. By the way, are you back in stream? You might have to click my profile picture at the top of the call to tab over because I restarted it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yep, I can see it now.
Okay, let's take a look here.
Round one, I feel like I played pretty well. Round two was absolutely horrendous from me.
Okay.
Come to me for heals.
Like there were a lot of missed Suzus that I didn't like. For example, on that
Sure.
Bastion.
Well, you'd already used Suzu, so it happens.
大丈夫? On my way.
Okay.
Restoring balance.
So, for you to use your mobility here, where do you need to be moving?
Probably swinging right to be able to see both my Mauga and the enemy team, so I can get some kunai out. Probably.
Yeah.
That's-
This is it right here. This is it right here. Okay, very good.
Is high ground an option here? Just curious.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you'll need to find cover. Preferably, maybe you wall climb here because this provides you a little bit more cover. But yeah, sure, why not? You could wall climb here and then use this as cover here. Something to consider. So you're trying to do damage here,
I'm here.
but the problem that I'm seeing so far is that a lot of the time here, you're kind of just sitting in the back line here. Like, this is fine. That's fine. It's a good try. This is, you get the trade. We're fine.
Like mending a shadow. Hey,
A little late on the teleport there. That's okay.
heal you.
Okay. Now, when do you use Kitsune Rush? What's the strategy with Kitsune Rush?
Honestly, I have no idea. Usually I do it when most of my team is there because I feel like I don't want to throw my ult when we're not all ready or we're down.
Okay.
Um, and I like to use it to open fights, mostly because I I feel like if you do it more reactively than proactively, you're not gonna get as much value out of it. But I could be wrong. That's my
I
impression.
agree. I agree. I would say if you're up one, use it. If you're down one, use it. If you're even, use it. Just use
Okay.
it. The only tricky part with Kitsune Rush is making sure that that you're not giving up too much space to use it. In other words, I don't like where you're at right now, standing behind your tank. Where do you need to be going right now?
Probably swinging left, but staying behind cover.
How would you do that?
Um, is that room an option on the left of the screen?
It could, but again, it doesn't really open up an angle here, right? You're seeing the same things that your Malga is seeing. You're not creating any bit of a crossfire. You're not really utilizing mobility to go here, right?
Is it the is high ground? Uh, hmm. So I can still see my Mauga here, but I can also. Okay, okay.
So you're basically looking for an angle where you want to see your tank. Is that's the impression I'm getting? Correct?
Yeah.
Don't stop looking for angles like that. I know that's going to be uncomfortable, but you don't have to. You really don't have to. Kiriko has so much dueling potential, so much mobility with her wall climb, teleport, and so on, that you would be better served if you were here throwing kunai to help your tank than you would actually healing your tank. I want you to think about why that might be the case.
So the our is gonna stay in our back line, and she's
Okay.
gonna be able to heal the tank. That's my guess. And if I don't, and I have the option to TP to my tank if he gets low, and then heal him.
It's funny because you got two of the least important variables, which is good because it proves to me that there's a lack of understanding here, which we're going to address. How does your Mauga take damage? What happens?
People like the enemy shoot at him.
Okay.
Oh, right. Okay. So when they're looking at me, they're not looking at the Mauga.
Correct.
So they can't shoot him because they're shooting
Correct.
me.
Correct. And because you're on an angle, you're making them make a choice. This character, how easy is it for Ash to shoot a Mauga?
Like quite easy. He's got a big
You?
hitbox.
Use strafing?
Not so much.
Okay, so the pressure
another
output is
question.
significantly lower. Go ahead.
How are you supposed to strafe? I'm really not sure, honestly.
Go into deathmatch and practice.
Okay. Like,
Go into
is it
deathmatch
just
and
like
practice. Yeah. The biggest thing I
like
can tell you is
AD?
AD. Yeah, that's it. AD and mix it up every now and again. The micro
So it's
is
like-
it's both a lot simpler than you think and a lot more complicated than you think. It's so complicated that it's probably not worth our time talking about right now, but you can also just go practice it right now. You don't need anybody to hold your hand. Go practice it. You tell me.
Okay.
When is
So it's
AD
like the bots
AD
in Vaxta.
Yeah. When is
Like,
80
okay.
spamming really good? When is it better to kind of go a little bit slower with your strafing? I don't know. You tell me. You're gonna have to go practice and figure it out. You could go take a shower and think about it. You could probably come up with some good ideas of things to practice, right? You know, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. See, this is where the coach is useful because I'm going to tell you, take an angle, think about it this way, but then it's up to you to go practice this. It's up to you to go practice this. Now, notice what makes this angle good.
I have cover.
Okay, number one. Number two.
I can see multiple enemies.
Okay. You don't have to see multiple enemies, but you do need to be able to shoot something, right? Okay. Number three.
Going back to the point about like taking attention away from our Mauga, we're not like I'm far away enough from my Mauga that they have to like turn their they have to
angle.
like turn their cameras. Yeah.
It's an angle. And by the way, here's a way to think about it. That's a guaranteed way to get a safe teleport. The closer you are to your team, the worse your teleport. The further away you are from the team, the better the teleport. Because if they put attention here, then you are guaranteed to be able to teleport far away from the threat. Whereas if you're here and you're in trouble, where do you go?
I mean, to Bastion, I guess.
Yeah, if that, right? So that's it. One other thing I want you to consider when we're talking about angle is I would like you to play generally with Kiriko. I mean, there's exceptions to this rule, but most of the time you want to play around mid-range. You don't want to get too close. That has been off and on at times past. She used to have a 2-tap, which meant you could get close if you wanted to. But really, playing the more medium range character support here, this is going to feel pretty good. It's going to feel pretty good. Something to consider.
So this distance. Okay.
I mean, even where you're at right now, technically, you have the distance here. You even have the cover. You just don't have the angle. You don't have the angle. And that means it's very easy for the Ashe to avoid you. It's very easy for for them to focus on you and your Malga at the same time. Use it. Let it rip. Good. Now here's a question. How could you use your Kitsune Rush on an angle here?
Just rush down from this little room, and then the fox goes down onto the point.
You got it. So you rush from your angle towards your team. You could even go backwards. You could even peek it here and rush this way to where your tank is. But you still hold your angle. Yep.
This ends now.
See, what I'm seeing here is not that you're unwilling to do damage. You're trying. The problem is that your position, your angle is so poor that it's really hard for you to see or shoot anything. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
And then situations like this, where because your angle is really bad, your teleport's really bad, and now you're going to almost die. That's going to force your Suzu. You notice that?
Yeah.
Your teleport was like a meter, right? It was not good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you're going to have to set up here. This is going to take some time. Help your Malga, that's fine. Now where do you go?
Left.
Okay, where? Be specific here.
It's so nice that you can zoom out here because you just have to be aware of the map and where the enemies are, like in game. But I think I generally prefer high ground. I might climb up into that like room on the green building. There.
Sure.
Duel the Ashe, maybe. Yeah.
Sure. If you have your teleport, you can duel the Ashe. How is that protecting your team? How is that protecting your Malga?
Well, I mean, I'm taking the attention of the Ashe away from anyone else. Maybe forcing like some resources to be used on the Ashe.
Yeah. Trust me, there's a reason she's here. This is a good angle for Ashe. You need to get her out, right? This is your responsibility. Now, if this was a Reaper here, maybe I don't do this. Why?
Reaper's close range, and
Close
I'd be
range.
close like this.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
just
You
a
could
kill
still win
box
the
for
duel.
me.
I lost to a Kiriko or a Reaper. I lost to a Kiriko as a Reaper last night in a 1v1. I don't want to talk about it in close range. But yeah, generally not worth your time. So then does that mean you have to sit with your tank, or can you find a different angle?
Find a different angle.
Okay, where's the different angle?
So maybe an alternative is I want to go to the path of least resistance here and go right onto that high ground there. The other option would be to go left, which is a little bit longer.
I like the right option
doesn't-
better. I think the
Okay.
path of least resistance is actually a really good way of thinking about it. Because with Kiriko, it's like, why don't I just take the angle that's free? If I have to duel somebody here, I want to make sure it's somebody I'm comfortable dueling, right? But yeah, get here. What could you do from here? I mean, this goes without saying, right?
Just shoot the
Shoot,
supports. I mean,
heal,
it's so
shoot,
free.
heal.
Yeah.
It's funny. You actually have the right idea here. The problem is what? What's the problem with you being in this situation here as opposed to where you should have been with just walking and wall climbing?
I used my TP to go in, and
Yes.
now I won't have it for 7
Yes.
seconds to get
Correct.
out if I need it.
Correct. That's not always a bad thing. As you mentioned earlier with the new perk, it's not terrible. You can kind of play around with it, but that's basically covering a weakness. I want you to take an angle with your feet so that you can teleport out if you need to. That's the key thing. And that's why she has wall climb, so that she can do that. Look at your vision here. You can heal, you can damage, you can do anything you want. You and your Reaper just completely cleared them off that high ground. Good job.
So
I actually like your. I'm gonna interrupt here really fast. I like your damage
Okay.
heal balance most of the time. I think in general you're prioritizing. Like I know a lot of lower rank Kirikos would have just healed their Malga there. I'm like, man, he's full HP. You need to shoot that Reaper in the head, right? You did a good job. Go ahead.
If my only concern, and like my only concern with the more like off angly playstyle is that I'm not gonna be there to see my tank or be there to heal my tank, or if I can't see my tank, then like what if he gets low and I like don't TP in time, or like
You are worried way too much about your tank, and you need to worry more about winning games and applying pressure. We kind of talked about this earlier when we asked, what's more, healing your Malga or damaging Ashe in terms of cutting off damage to your tank? And the answer is shooting Ashe in the head. Ashe will always do more damage than you can heal, especially with the DPS passive. So stop her shooting your Malga in the head. That's the rule. Do you get what I'm saying? And a lot of the times when you take good angles like this, or even the one that you did take, notice that it was an angle that was meant with the intention of offensive pressure, but you had good vision to support people too. You notice that?
Yeah.
The nature of taking a good angle to do damage, you will have vision on healing people too. You might not go in with that intention, but it will work. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
I know this is a lot for you, but we're pulling the weeds out is what we're doing. Okay.
Okay.
This is why you're plat. And I mean this with all due respect. This is why you're plat. Because of this. This has to change if you want to progress past plat. This is going to be something that you're going to wrestle with. You're going to have to experiment with. You're going to play Kiriko with a Lucio, with a Rhine, and you're going to go, do I take an angle at all? Do I just heal about my Rhine? You're going to have to find a way to heal your Rhine and take an angle and do damage at the same time. You're going to have to find a way. You're going to have to find times when you're going to abandon your Reinhardt to get a trade just to keep him alive. You're going to find times when you sell your Reinhardt's life to win the fight. You're going to play with teams of Flamey. They're going to play with Tracers that are going to dive you on those angles. You're going to play versus Widowmakers that snipe you when you try to sneak up on them. You're going to die more. You're going to die less. You're going to fail more ultimates because you can't quite reach your team, and you question whether I should solo ult. This is going to be your journey, is figuring this stuff out. I'm telling you, this is what you need to be thinking and experimenting with. You have to fight the urge to go back to sit behind your tank. It's not how it works in ranked. It's not how it works in scrims. The only time that we ever see Kiriko played like this in scrims is when you're playing like a quasi-dive composition where you're running with Kiri Lucio. And even then, Kiri's still taking angles. They're just more conservative. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a lot, I know. It's a lot, I know. Do you have any questions so far? We could take our time with this.
Nope.
Okay. Let's keep going.
Not yet.
Push the payload. Konnichiwa.
Sadly, we can't skip here, so we have to go sit here complacently. Where should you be set up for the next fight? We're pushing cart now. Where should we be set up now? Oh, wow. There you go. Nice job. Nice job. Now, the one thing is you do have to...
I am so unaware of the Reaper. Oh my god, this is embarrassing.
That's the thing. When you take angles, you're going to be more confrontational. You're doing so on purpose to take pressure off of your team, but you're going to be running into confrontations more. So you're going to have to be aware of who's on that angle with you. Just because there's somebody there doesn't mean that you shouldn't take it. Case in point, the Ashe that we talked about earlier. Remember that? This can't happen. But the problem is not where you went. The problem is not even necessarily when you went. The problem is what you did. What could you have done here if you'd been a little bit faster, a little bit more aware? What could you have done?
TP'd out faster. Maybe if I had the foresight that would happen, I would go to the I would deploy within my optimal distance of that Reaper and go to the left side, the building to the left of this pink one.
Yeah, exactly. And I also want to discourage you from feeling like you have to save Suzu if you need to. If the Suzu is what's going to keep you alive here, you need to use it for yourself. And I would rather have a 5v5 without a Suzu than a 4v5, well, again, without a Suzu, right? Like, it's really, don't try and save it. I think... I wouldn't purposely try to get it burned if you have something important you need to save it for. But most of the time, Suzu is... Let's put it this way. I would say at the high level, I would say 20% of Suzus are used for cleansing. 80% are just to keep people alive. To prevent themselves or somebody else from dying when they're critical. Yep. Because you got to think about, like, what do you cleanse? Dynamite, Onanade, Junker Queen ults, stuff like that, right? Not that many things. Whereas you're always going to have critical health teammates. You yourself are always going to be critical health. All right, where's the angle now? From the information that you have.
I would take that room where I like almost dueled the Ash.
Yep, I agree.
Again, yeah.
Oh, look who you're helping now. So you're not just
I'm
going
with the
selfishly,
Reaper, yeah.
you're also helping other people that are doing the right things too. You reward them for taking a space. Who wins this fight now? Well, should be your Reaper. Reaper disengages. Your Reaper now has the angle. Now he teleports safely. Now he Death Blossoms. You win the game, right? Angles matter. This is what map control, if you've ever heard that term, means. Whereas now you're leaving it up to chance. Why? Because it's a 1v1. So you just pray that your Reaper's better. Don't pray. Make it happen. Yes. 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 Look at your Malgus HP. You got me?
He's fine. Yeah.
It's fine. The Ash is on the floor. Use your Kitsune Rush here. Definitely would have used my Kitsune Rush. Hold the angle. Kitsune Rush towards your tank. Hold your angle. Because by TPing out, you're now dead. You see? Look at where you've ended. And look at where you were. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, you should have died there. You see the threat. Teleporting out should be something that's done when it's forced. That may mean sometimes you actually let somebody die rather than teleport in. Because if you teleport in, they die, and then you die afterwards.
Right.
I would just continue rush this. This is why you really don't want to be on point. Look how chaotic this is. Super stressful. Nice shots.
Oh, quick 2 questions.
Of course, take your time.
With the double swift step now, is it now viable? I just had this idea. I was discussing it in a Discord call with my friends. Is it now viable to TP in, Zuzu, and then TP back back out?
Yes, you
That's
still
not viable.
start. You still start in the same angle that you would before. You just take the same exact angle that you would before. However, you can go and help. You could go Suzu your Malga or Suzu your Reaper on the flank or Tracer deep in the back line, and then just TP right back. Yeah.
Okay.
Now keep in mind when you TP back, you do have to TP back to a person, right? So you may not want to do that, but yeah, I think it's really good.
And then my second question is, this came up like occasionally when we were scrimming and stuff, but there was an idea of like you don't want to burn both support ults in a fight. Basically, what do I need to know about ult economy?
Use
Period,
Kiriko
I guess.
first. Use Kiriko first. Any ultimate like Kiriko ultimate that's really easy to get value out of opening a fight, but doesn't really counter ultimates well, just use it first. Use it first.
Okay.
You generally don't want to use both support ults at the same time, right? Because they have similar goals, right? In the same way that you don't want to use 2 DPS ultimates at the same time. But if you use a support ult, and they use a support ult, and then you use another support ult, like let's say Kitsune, and then they Juno ult, and then you're on a nano boost to your Malga, that's fine. It's called layering, right? You just want to respond to one ultimate with one solution, right? You don't want to have like, oh, they popped Malga Cage. Let's blow 5 ultimates to counter it, right? Like that's not good. That's not efficient.
Right. Yeah. But if we're trading ults, would it be a good idea to use Rush as well?
Yes.
Even though it's used reactively in that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you guys won't die before it's used. Like the problem with using Rush reactively is that you don't want people dying before it's cast because it has a bit of a cast time, right? But if you can use it before it's cast, there's no problem using it mid-fight. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I think like given the fight we just looked at, right? They popped Juno ult first, but you had time. You could have thrown it towards your tank and just held the angle. That would have been fine.
Okay.
That would have been fine. Good questions.
I just have to like, I think it's a good idea to like get out those mental blocks and just like experiment with different ults.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, different timings of ults and like not be afraid to like, you know, lose games. As long as I end up figuring out the
not trying to be dramatic here.
Yeah.
Not trying to be dramatic here, but Overwatch has a real potential to be like a life skill lesson for you, right? With this kind of stuff, like legitimately being okay with letting teammates down because you're learning to become a better player, and even disappointing yourself at times because I shouldn't have died there, and you know what am I doing? You know, like that's just Overwatch. Everyone deals with that, right? The best players in the world deal with that. But you have to be willing to do the right thing, even if it means a little bit of personal short-term discomfort to grow to be a better person in this regard, right? Again, I know I'm being dramatic with it, but I'm serious. Like this stuff matters, you know? Don't be scared of making mistakes. This is the right thing. You're gonna learn. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna get better at it. It's going to take a lot of experimentation, though. But it's like, I think that the problem is that if I told you that taking off angles, doing DPS, taking high grounds, it's just immediately going to win you a bunch of games to get you to diamond. That's just a lie, right? It's a lie. You're going to fail a lot. You're going to mess up. It's going to feel really uncomfortable and awkward because not only do you not fully understand it, you never will until you do it yourself, but also you don't know how to do it in the moment. You're having a hard time right now. I mean, you're doing a good job, but it's taking you some time to think about where you should go. You may not have that same time in a game. So you're going to be slow. You're going to be out of position. You're going to make the wrong choice a couple of times. Doesn't matter. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. I like where you're at right now, by the way. I really like this. Look at that. You shot the ball before he even got to your backline, right? You didn't even let him touch your Ana. Good job. That's support right there. That you shot the Sombra as she's trying to set up in your backline. That's support right there. Where should you rotate from here? You shouldn't lean left, right? Where should you go from here?
Yeah, just keep on going right. Honestly.
Keep on going right, or honestly, just sit right here. Shoot and heal from here. But yeah, I like keep on going right. This is good too. You got TP, you got Suzu. Do it up. And you see what happens, right? You see how like your hesitancy puts you in a situation where you feel like you have to teleport in. You notice that? Like right now, you're like, oh man, I gotta help that Reaper. You should just be here. This shouldn't even be a problem, right? You shouldn't have to teleport in. You should just be there. And there it is. That's the problem. So that's not only going to burn your teleport, it's going to burn your Suzu. Why does it? The perk should be something that you have for bonus value. It shouldn't just be to cover the mistake itself. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You should be able to be here, heal damage, hard, get dove on yourself, TP out to your team, and then TP back to the high ground afterwards and just wait, right? But this shouldn't be something that you have to do because you screwed up initially. Wouldn't mind a Kitsune rush up here. Okay, well now it's too late. But yeah, see, like you really tried to heal Suzu, whatever your Malga. You just couldn't because you just didn't shoot anybody. And you just didn't shoot anybody because your angle was bad. And your angle was bad because you gave it up. You migrated towards your team instead of holding the angle and trusting your cover. You notice that?
Yeah, it's actually crazy because like I used to underestimate the amount of impact that you would have on a support, but like we were winning that team fight when I was on the angle because the ball was gone and
the Sombra
like denied that Sombra, right? And then the minute that I like wall climb over that gate and fucking half-ass like do whatever I'm doing, like we lose the team fight. Like that's actually crazy.
Yep. And you notice that when you were, it wasn't so much that I was with my ball and whatever. When you were here, this is way too close, way too compressed. So you got your teleport forced back out again immediately, and then all of a sudden now your Malga's isolated. Now he's dead. That's your impact with support. Support at the highest level of play is just as impactful as any other role. I actually had a conversation with the systems designer, and he was talking about like role impact for different ranks and so on.
Like the systems designer of Overwatch.
Yes, yeah, and because the way that you think about it is because matchmaking isn't perfect, right? You have like let's say there's like a GM3 player and a GM5 player, and whatever in the same lobby, right? So what ends up happening is if you have like a would you prefer to have in a GM5 lobby, you have one GM3 player? Would you prefer a GM3 tank, a GM3 DPS, or a GM3 support? And the funny thing that the systems designer was telling me is that at the higher ranks, it doesn't matter. All of them were going to contribute, generally depending on meta, but most of the time, all of the characters, all the roles are going to contribute the same. So you would probably think, oh, I want a GM3 carry DPS, or solo tank, so I want a tank. But actually, a GM3 support is almost or just as valuable. But obviously, there's a reason why that's, I think, more applicable in higher ranks. Because lower rank supports, even mid-rank supports, they just don't do their job, right? They'll support a lot, but even here, like I don't mind this Kitsune, I appreciate it, but this is scary. You're close, you're in the middle of honestly a coliseum of pain. Like look at where you're at, right? You don't have very good vision. Maybe here would have been better for Kitsune Rush, just any sort of angle here with a little bit of distance. But you see how stressful this is?
Yeah, like we were literally surrounded. Like the Juno was behind us, the Sombra to our left. Yeah, the ball was like right on us. Like
Yep, it's very painful to see. Oh, nice shot! Look at that, you got her. Did you see that? You got the Sombra. You got the Sombra. You were spy checking and you actually shot her. I don't know if you noticed that. I'm scared. Yeah, I'm scared to
Wait, I
skip.
didn't
I
even
can't.
see the hit marker.
Yeah, you got it. I can't skip back, which is tragic, but yeah, you nailed her.
I'll take
funny.
a look at it later.
Yeah, that's funny.
The payload.
Okay. See, I like this kind of stuff. You know, get yourself off the cart. Take an angle. And you notice, by the way, again, it's an angle where should you damage or heal from this angle? I don't know. It's your call. You got good vision to do both, right? Even healing from an angle is good because it means that you don't have to worry about keeping yourself alive. If they all want to focus these guys, you're fine. You're not under any pressure. Whereas this fight, it felt like both you and your team were getting curb stomped. AoE abilities are a real thing, you know? And this kind of stuff here, this is nice and cozy. Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. Reaper tries to sneak up. Nope. You've got the range, force Wraith. Now, if he canceled Wraith and forced you to teleport away, what do? You have to teleport back to your team, right? But you know what? It's fine.
I can come back.
It's fine. You can come back. And at the same time, you've scouted, you've chunked his HP, and you forced a cooldown. So now if he wants to chase you, he's a lot weaker to do so. But he didn't even do that. You're fine. Look at that. Suzu's late, which sucks. But do you notice, again, how this Juno ult, potential Death Blossom, all this crap, not your concern. Like how cozy this is.
This is actually crazy what happens. Like, I was losing my mind that they just left me alone up here, and I started standing still because no one was looking at me.
But this is
crazy.
what angles do. Do you see this? This is not about doing more damage necessarily. Look at your positioning. Look at the vision you have. This is using your character's kit. You understand? This is what we've been trying to get you to do this whole game, right?
Yeah.
Look at the objectivity that you have here. You can heal, you can Suzu. That is crazy discipline with that Suzu, actually. I thought... And then look at that. Look at that. No Death Blossom. Easy shots on Juno. Easy, easy, easy. I mean, I cannot think of a better fight to actually stop on. Because that's literally a perfect example of what we're talking about. Did you do more damage or healing? I don't know. It doesn't matter. You just had an angle. You use your mobility. If anybody pushed you, you just teleport away, right? You utilize your mobility to give you an amazing vantage point, both for damage, for healing, and that's it. Now, you won't always, as we mentioned earlier, have an angle that allows you to have both, but that's okay. That's okay. So let's take some notes. What needs to be done better? What do you need to practice with Kiriko specifically?
Angles.
Take angles.
Yeah.
Cover, angle, and range. Mid to longish. Right? Just based off the nature. That allows you to hold that angle for a long time without getting cleared as much, because otherwise you just get your face blown off. Okay? What else?
I mean, I guess like a lot of like practice, like what my practice habits should be. So I think like limiting to the number of hours I play a day, probably around 2 or 3, probably 2, honestly. Playing other roles like less often if I'm gonna focus on support.
Couple of Kiriko micro things I'll dump in here really fast too. Kitsune, just use when down 1, up 1, or even. Just use it. Aim from your angle towards a teammate when possible. Don't be scared of taking an angle that splits LOS to your tank. It's often worth it. I think that was mostly it for micro. I think that was mostly it for micro in that regard. Okay, do you have any other questions?
When I'm going into practice mode, should I focus on one thing at a time?
Yes. One thing
Okay.
per game. One thing per game, but you can change that up per game if you'd like to. Because it can be really boring to
Okay.
work on the same thing over and 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 over again.
Okay.
But you can, when you're working on one game, you can be like, okay, this is what I'm going to practice. This is what I'm going to play. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and you can mix it up however you'd like. You don't have to, like, it's the same thing as practicing any other skill. If you had to drill free throws for 3 months playing basketball, you'd probably lose interest, you know? So
Yeah.
it would be like, this is going to be a free throw game or a free throw day, and then let's do some 3-pointers here, let's do some angles here, let's practice my offensive pressure output, let's see if I can nail my kitsunes this match. That's fine. And I challenge you to try to apply some of these other things to the other characters as well, because the whole concept, now how deep you take angles with BAP or with Ana or with Juno is very much different. Obviously Juno especially, right? Or BAP, I guess, too. But, this concept of offensive pressure output, getting better at vantage point and taking better angles, this is not a Kiriko unique thing. It's a little more unique to Kiriko. A little more unique to Kiriko in the fact that she has more mobility. But, yeah, it's very similar with other characters.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. I want you to practice these things. Be okay with screwing up. And if specific questions come up, just let me know, all right?